All right, welcome everyone to the Build with Billy Marketplace Edition Staffing Engine with Matt here. We're going to give it a minute or two to let people join, then we'll get started.
Thanks, Billy. Going to be a fun session.
Absolutely.
And thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, we got people flowing in. And as always, if you have any questions or anything like that, please drop them in the comments. Even if we aren't able to get to it on the live portion, we will make sure that we follow up with you either on our side or the Staffing Engine side.
Yeah, I'll be passively paying attention, but I know that we've got some staffing engine folks who are monitoring and can answer questions if any come up during the show here.
Yeah, I see Jay already saying, hey, so what's up, Jay? Good to see you. No, Andrew's around as well. Both Andrews. So we got a few different Andrews in the crowd.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think let's get going and obviously people can kind of filter in as we go. But yeah, excited. We have 45 minutes to talk some AI stuff, which probably won't be enough, and all the things that Staffing Engine is doing. But first, Matt, just kind of want to start things off. And I know like one of the things that we really get excited about and all the synergies that we've been able to do historically kind of stem from, Staffing Engine's integration with Bullhorn, kind of that close partnership and a lot of things you're doing to kind of, put this stuff inside of the database and those types of things. So love to just hear kind of how you all think about that and some of the examples of how you do it.
Yeah. And when you think about, Staffing Engine being a Bullhorn marketplace partner, it really comes from the people first and foremost, right? So our CEO and CMO, Ted and Andrew, formerly the founders of TextUs, who had a really great partnership with Bullhorn over the years. Jay being another founder of Staffing Engine who had come from Bullhorn like myself. And so we were already very deeply ingrained in the Bullhorn ecosystem and had a lot of experience not only working at Bullhorn, but also with various Bullhorn partners over the years. That's not to say that Bullhorn's our only partner or only ATS integration, but they're definitely at the forefront, and especially as Bullhorn Ventures came in earlier this year, which has been great for us, not only aligning deeper with Bullhorn, but also getting access to various leaders at Bullhorn, which has helped us both in our product strategy, product roadmap, and then even further deepening our integration with Bullhorn.
Awesome. And I know one of the features that everyone gets excited about and where a lot of the early AI adoption is coming from is around chatbots. And obviously Bullhorn Automation has its own version of a chatbot. But as I like to tell people, kind of Staffing Engine's chatbot takes it to a different level as a much more kind of capability. You can do some really fun stuff with it. So just love to hear kind of your take on the chatbot, some of the things that you all think are really important, where you've seen it adopted, utilized well, just kind of, diving deep on that use case for AI.
Yeah, no doubt, and appreciate you teeing that one up. So when I first arrived at Staffing Engine, AI chatbot was really our first and only product. We've since built out various other awesome AI solutions that we'll get to a little bit later on here. But when you think about AI chatbots, digital assistants, you can call them a whole bunch of different things. Bullhorn, the chatbot that comes with Bullhorn automation definitely fits a lot of needs, right? Especially if you're, an SMB or more professional recruitment. But a lot of the staffing agencies that come to us and that we service are really high volume. I'm talking, hundreds, if not thousands of applicants on a weekly or daily basis. And oftentimes that's just too much volume for a recruitment team to be able to get to in a reasonable time frame. There's been some really good data that's come out that the fastest growing US staffing agencies are able to respond to candidate and client leads in under an hour. And if you're under 10 minutes, you're doing a great job. If you have a lot of applicant flow or a lot of lead flow, it's impossible for humans to get back in touch that quickly a lot of the time. And so AI chatbots do a really good job being that first touch, helping to augment the human touch by eliminating some of the more repetitive, mundane things that AI and automation are great at. And so using technology to greet folks, qualify them, answer any deflection, any questions that folks might have. We know it's the end of year. How many times do agencies get asked about W-2s? That's not
Oh
something
yeah.
that's not something that a recruiter necessarily has to do. Technology can aid them in that now. And so it's all about the purpose of freeing up recruiters' time, qualifying in folks that might be a good fit for a position you have, qualifying out folks so you don't have, a truck driver applying to a travel nurse job and so on, which still does happen, and making sure that recruiters are spending time with the right people and salespeople are also spending time with the right sales leads.
Yeah, that efficiency, love that call out, because teeing up your recruiters to be more productive, getting them, getting the right candidates in front of the recruiters at the right time, that can really kind of totally make your whole system process more efficient and obviously lead to really great outcomes. So that's kind of like the inbound interest on the chatbot side of things, and obviously huge use case there. But I know another area is the outbound, where you're kind of trying to engage or utilize, chatbot as an omni-tool channel to kind of get an outcome from an outbound perspective.
Yeah, and before I go outbound, one more point to make on more of the on either the inbound or outbound flow. So a lot of agencies and companies, even outside of staffing agencies, were really burned by version one, generation one of chatbots. They sucked. No one had good experience using them. And I think that the important thing to understand is now that AI is in the forefront and AI has gotten a lot better, the conversational components of AI have also gotten a lot better. So just because you might have been scarred or given a black eye by a chatbot, 2, 3 years ago, they have gotten a lot better as we've moved more from just decision tree logic to actually putting some powerful conversational elements beyond that. And then two other, I think, important things to call out. So there are a lot of options out there on the market for digital assistant type solutions. You'd asked me earlier about depth of Bullhorn integration, and that's
Yeah.
really where I think where we stand strong. So the notion that as folks come in and engage with you, as we collect things like their name, phone number, email address, doing a live lookup into Bullhorn to see if they're an existing candidate or sales contact or a new one, we can immediately start creating those records if they are new, or if they're existing, we can do a lookup and then match any type of qualification or knockout type question to unique fields on that record, so
Awesome.
that you're always getting the most up-to-date current data into your Bullhorn database.
And you have that with files too, right? If I'm correct, where you can kind of,
Yeah.
get the correct things, attach it, put it in the right spot.
And when you think about the beauty of that, most people just think about resume files and sending that to a Bullhorn Files tab, which is great, but you can use it to collect credential type files,
Mhm.
or, you could actually ask a candidate to record a short video of themselves, then upload that video file to their Bullhorn record. So there's a lot of different interesting things that you can do there. And then again, one more thing before we move on to the outbound. One thing that we've seen pretty much universally across our staffing customers is that since COVID, the use of collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams and Slack have exploded.
Yeah.
I always joke, all of us partners and vendors typically use Slack, but all the agencies typically are using like Microsoft Teams. It's all a matter of personal choice, but we realize that and recognize that, and we view Teams as a really powerful tool to integrate with in addition to Bullhorn. So as those applicants get funneled through and the qualified leads come through the chatbot, we're also sending that data into Teams in addition to Bullhorn, so that recruiting and sales teams are getting alerted in real time and know who to follow up with and contact. The other component to that that's a differentiator for us is our live chat. So
Yeah.
AI solutions are great, However, some people just want to talk to a live human. And so to provide the ability for a candidate to get in touch with a recruiter, or again, a sales lead to get in touch with a sales rep very quickly, was important to us. We spent a lot of time talking to agencies who had deployed live chat solutions. And what we heard was that when it required the recruiting team to learn a new UI, it wasn't as adopted as much as they wanted it to. So we thought long and hard about where to build that into, and we landed on those collaboration tools, Teams and Slack. So if you think about someone who comes to your website for the very first time, they want to talk to an engagement specialist or recruiter, we can allow that recruiting team to pick up that request in Teams, talk back and forth, capture that conversation, store it in Bullhorn.
Love that. And obviously that synergizes really well with what you mentioned earlier about being able to kind of qualify and sift and kind of move and present that at the right time to the right person. But that element of being able to insert, the person when it's the appropriate time is massive. And then I love also the call out on the change management side of how do you actually, you guys are the experts in getting recruiters actually excited about the product, getting it utilized, which often is an overlooked aspect. But yeah, love those points.
You and I have both seen it over the years. It can be tough to get recruiters and sales people to use new tools. So much of what we've built, we wanted to build it into existing workflows that live inside Bullhorn and live inside Teams. And when you talk about delivering like a live on-demand experience, it doesn't get better than being able to allow a website visitor in real time to communicate with someone at their agency and get answers to their questions. Like the big challenge that we've seen over the last few years is the concept of ghosting and people filling out a form and then waiting for someone to get back to them. Well, you remove that whole waiting period the minute that you allow someone to connect with someone live, and that's very important to us.
Yeah, and then having the options where, if it's out of office hours, you can have different paths, different cadences, different things set up. If your team isn't in the office, or you have different backup plans and things, but accounting for all those types of situations definitely is a focal point for kind of the candidate or applicant experience side of things. And I
Yeah.
imagine the client side too, because oftentimes candidate focus, right, is where a lot of inbound or a lot of things come in, but I know there's some really cool use cases on the client side too.
Yeah. And I think, generally speaking, over the years, us partners have been really focused on delivering what I call candidate experience tools. But right now, agencies are having a hard time getting jobs. And so there's very much a sales use case behind that too. Last place I'll go before we move into more of the outbound piece. So when I started here, it was really that top of funnel, that candidate who comes in, or that client who comes in for the first time or is a repeat visitor to your website. Where we're going, where we've started building, is also tying into things like Bullhorn Talent Platform or different mobile application tools. So after they've actually been placed on assignment, they're no longer a lead, but they're actually on work, being able to layer into those tools to supply that same, live chat and chatbot experience downstream, so that they have that same consistent experience, whether they're visiting your agency for the first time or they've been on assignment and need help later on down the road.
And with being able to access and pull information from those places, right? You just empower the AI to deliver more value, to be more responsive to the asks of the individual that's engaging with it. Because obviously what we've seen in AI in this kind of early stage, oftentimes its effectiveness relies on the underlying of data or data quality. So I love that there's that link there
Yeah.
necessarily. And already you have use cases to improve data quality and things, but then you have that greater access to be able to use and leverage that, to answer things dynamically.
While always having that human in the loop option too, because we've all had those frustrating bot experiences. And even if your AI is really good, if it hasn't been trained a certain way, they might not be able to answer it. So you want AI to deflect and remove work off of your internal recruiters' plates. but you also want to have them be able to connect with someone live when the time is right. It's that fine balance between human and machine.
For sure. Yeah, something that I personally try to balance with almost on a daily basis of where's that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone where you can get kind of the best of both worlds. So you got to talk about outbound now. We've teased it a few times, but that's an area where not many people are kind of using chatbot today, and really it's a place that you
Yeah.
can differentiate from an experience standpoint.
Yeah, no doubt. And, inbound's great for those initial leads, but, some agencies don't get a lot of inbound, especially if you look at like your mid-size, IT professional recruiting who are doing a lot of work on LinkedIn. They don't get the same number of web responses that a travel nursing or light industrial firm might get unless you have a really big global brand. And so we found early on that we also had to provide value to reaching out to internal candidates already in the database through candidate redeployment, candidate reactivation type campaigns. And there's a really good use case there where we have several clients embedding our solution in outbound automation through Bullhorn. We can pass through our bot URL so that when they receive an email or an SMS, we do a live lookup. They get greeted. It's all personalized from the staffing agency. We know who they are, so we can greet them in a personalized manner, allow them to do a database refresh so they're updating records in the system, and then take them through a qualification process. And Bullhorn Automation can also do that. I think that one of the nice things about ours is once they get through that qualification process, if they're qualified, we'll immediately send them through to that note through to the owner in Microsoft Teams. We'll immediately add a qualification note to that record in Bullhorn. And going back to the live chat, if they are qualified and they are looking for work, then we can patch them through directly to a live recruiter in that instance too. So the same way that it works on the inbound can also work on the outbound.
Yeah, and I know an element that I've seen a lot of our mutual clients get really excited about is that distribution aspect, where depending upon answers or kind of capacity, like a bunch of different factors, you can route kind of things that
Yeah.
are coming back in different places. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, or kind of where you've seen that be really successful.
Yeah, so as we're collecting all that information around qualifications, so their locations, skills, specialties, however you organize your sales and recruitment teams, we can take that data and then route them to the appropriate channels of recruiters for rapid follow-up. So if you're a, travel nurse in the state of California and your, agency is broken up by region or by specialty, we can have channels split up in Microsoft Teams to make sure that they get to that right channel and that recruiters are only seeing candidates that relate to them. So
Love that. Love that. So obviously kind of what we've done to this point is talk a lot about obviously like a chatbot, and that gets into some of well actually only a portion of kind of some of the AI use cases. And I know one of the things that you all have been focused on, especially this last year, 18 months, is kind of building a portfolio of AI products, right? Like you mentioned earlier, kind of Staffing Engine started primarily as a chatbot, but now it's so much more. So I'd love to talk about maybe some of the other categories of AI or some of the other things that you all are doing on that front.
yeah, we knew pretty early on that while we thought, AI chatbots served a pretty big need, that there would be use cases for others that we would, build and learn as we go. When you think about AI chatbots, those do a really good job on the candidate client experience. We also wanted to build some internal recruiter and sales productivity tools. That started with a solution called Engine Alerts. And it's still loved by several of our Bullhorn customers today and used regularly. The idea behind Engine Alerts is that as information comes in or takes place in Bullhorn, we will route certain types of activity to the appropriate user based on what type of activity it is in a Chrome extension. So, for example, if a web response comes in we can immediately see that that took place in Bullhorn and send that end user a notification that they have a candidate to follow up on. Or if a recruiter submits to a account manager, we'll immediately send that account manager notification that they have it. They don't have to be logged into Bullhorn because it's a Chrome extension. They can be out on LinkedIn, on Indeed, checking scores on ESPN, wherever you are. It follows you around throughout the day, and it really becomes that live real-time task manager that lets you know what to do next in your day. From being an end user of Bullhorn, of Salesforce, of several other CRMs in my past, they almost always have built-in task management tools that live inside the system. The benefit of it being free and living outside is that we want people to live in Bullhorn, of course, but we know that throughout their day they're going to go to other places, and we always want to deliver that information in real time wherever they are, and then drive them back into the system. It shifts them from having to proactively go into your database to find information to being much more reactive in real time. It also increases visibility across the team. So like when placements happen, we'll send those placement notifications to the entire team. It becomes like a virtual win gong.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then obviously a lot of those use cases, I imagine, kind of shrink that time gap between something happening and then the next action taking place. And obviously, if you stack that throughout your entire process, like your end to end time, it gets much improved, which I'm sure people get excited about.
Staffing and recruiting has always been a speed game. It's all about speed to market. And we've had some great customer examples where, they talk to a candidate or a client in the morning, and then they see a job or a candidate come in through engine alerts later in the day or later that week that fits that. They see it in real time and can be immediately connect the dots. So it's been a great solution. Where it starts getting really powerful is some of the Gen AI stuff that we've also built into that solution. So as part of our AI assistant, Engine Alerts was the first item that we built. And then we since rolled out at Engage this year, Engine GPT, which basically allows for that end user to use generative AI to take action on those notifications that are coming in. So for example, say I've got a web response to a job. We know who that candidate is in Bullhorn. We know who that job is in Bullhorn. In a single click, they can generate a completely customized candidate write-up or submittal for that candidate against the job order using real-time Bullhorn data, and it generates it in 20 to 30 seconds. That's something that might have taken a junior recruiter 20 to 25 minutes to do back in the day. They can do that rapidly now. And we're gonna Bullhorn. I know Bullhorn's doing some Gen AI stuff of your own, and so again, the benefits of being Bullhorn Ventures is that we're meeting regularly with Bullhorn's product team to make sure that we're doing while some of it might be similar, we want to make sure that we're doing different use cases than Bullhorn is.
Yeah, and obviously there's lots of alignment. I love that point about obviously just the time savings on that individual, kind of write up or kind of send out use case. But then obviously too, with the right prompts and the right structure, you're able to ensure a level of quality that you might not be able to ensure
Yeah.
otherwise. So I know like one of the things everyone gets really excited with automation and AI in general is that ability to up level kind of, newer or junior level recruiters and kind of get more of your team operating at that kind of high capacity that some of your best people are functioning as.
Yeah, you want to standardize it across your agency and allow your B and C players to become those A high B players by making what the A players do reputable across the organization. That's the beauty of generative AI, and we can build those prompts for each agency the way that they want those outcomes to be. And a great customer story. We just released a case study today with Horizontal Talent. And our friend Maddie over there had a great story how she had one of her girlfriends that works at Horizontal as well in town. They were going to a bar, and her friend was stressing about having to write a number of submittals that were going to take her well over an hour of time. and Maddie popped up our AI assistant. I think they churned out the submittals in under 15 minutes, and then they went out and had a good time. So, that's just a good example of how you can take time and give it back to a recruiter by using AI to eliminate those repetitive, mundane tasks. You don't want to replace the recruiter with AI. You want to augment them and remove those, again, repetitive mundanes.
Yeah, amplify their impact, give them greater accessibility. Yeah,
Yeah.
so being able to do it from anywhere on the internet, right, is a really powerful enabler compared to only being able to do it, if you're inside the ATS or manually doing it, that kind of thing.
Give them time back to, make candidate calls and hop on Zooms and do relationship building activities. So they don't have to sit there for, hours writing up submittals and candidate presentations.
Yeah, for sure. And I know like some of the results that you all have seen from this kind of combination of the engine alerts and kind of the generative GPT stuff on top of it, is kind of higher placement activity, getting
Yeah.
better adoption of Bullhorn, right?
Across the board, greater placement activity, greater bullhorn adoption, better, faster ramp times, right? Because it's a tool that's driving them back into bullhorn. We have clients who are constantly running bullhorn training sessions because we know that staffing is a high turnover industry. And
Hmm.
so any tool that's going to alert them of bullhorn activity and drive them back is going to be huge. And then with the GPT stuff, it really comes down to time savings and giving that recruiter or salesperson time back. And I'd be remiss to say, while the early solutions, things like, submittals and job publishing and create Boolean search strings and more recruiting focused. We've hosted, a couple of customer roundtables recently where everyone's echoed that getting job orders is the biggest focus right now, and so we've got some really good ideas as to how we're going to build sales use cases in so that those junior level salespeople can up level, know the right emails to write, know the right discovery questions to ask when they walk into a meeting. That's been a universal request across our customers and one that we're really eager to roll out as we move into 2024.
Yeah, really cool. And I know obviously, Bullhorn has its own kind of AI that's expanding and growing. That it's called Copilot. And some of the use cases we've seen some real excitement on the beta front as been, around generating those kind of interview questions dynamically. And so kind of
Yep.
understanding what's on the job record, getting that into a spot. Another area is kind of filling in missing or information that's not fully robust. So making job descriptions better as an example, standardizing those things because obviously a lot
Yeah.
happens on the job front is copy paste, so making those things better, making it more of a job ad. And then obviously like kind of the send out side of things, a lot of what we're doing is inside of Bullhorn on the AI front, but I'm excited to see obviously it has many tentacles that are going out through the whole
Yeah.
product suite.
Yeah, and a lot of partners are starting to explore how Gen AI can make their products better. One thing I know you'll appreciate though, all of the things that you just mentioned require good, clean bullhorn data.
Yeah.
So another plug for us and Bullhorn Automation working in concert to sure that data is up to date on candidate contact, client records, and that sort of thing. We've also recently partnered with Vetted AI, which does some really interesting stuff around database cleanliness as well. And so we like recommending them because they will clean your bullhorn data, and for
Yeah.
us to work really, really well, the cleaner the data, the better. So
Yeah, and actually speaking of data, I think one of the really important elements that just reminded me of, especially on the GPT front, is around kind of staffing companies being able to hold on to their proprietary data, kind of having some reassurance that their data isn't going into a language or learning model that their
yeah,
competitors are going to do so. So I know it's been a focus area for you all, and you have some cool kind of perspectives on it. But love to hear kind of how you all are tackling that kind of data security front, just to make
yeah.
sure it's that situation isn't happening.
It's on top of everyone's minds right now, and it's still a little bit of the Wild West. Like people are figuring it out, and some of the larger agencies have banned generative AI in their companies until there's more clarity. What I can tell you is that using a tool like GPT through a Bullhorn or through a staffing engine is going to be far safer than having a candidate copy and paste information from a candidate record
Yeah.
into Chat GPT, because then that's exactly what they're doing. They're training a large language model. That's what the Samsung developers got in hot water with like way earlier at the start of the year, because they trained GPT on proprietary Samsung information. But if you send it through the Bullhorn APIs, and you're stripping out sensitive information and things like that, it provides the agency a far safer way to leverage it without having the concern of recruiters having to go in and dump data into GPT.
Yeah, and I know it's not one of the more kind of sexier use cases or topics in AI, but it's probably the first thing that comes up, especially when you talk to kind of a compliance operations, like kind of that side of the equation. So, something we've also seen on our side of the fence on the AI front is making sure that's lock solid, right? Is a really important step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Any other things that are coming? Like where do you
Yeah,
see kind of future wise, or what are some of the things that you're
yeah.
seeing
Well,
market wise from
yeah,
your
so
perspective?
so we talked about chatbot, candidate client experience, and we talked about internal sales and productivity and profitability through AI assistant. The third, which to date has been rather healthcare specific, but we think that there's going to be some good use cases in other industries, is around AI lead distribution. And this one really came from our partners at GQR. Heather Jennings and Corey and the team over there have been great partners to work with and giving us ideas. They were early adopters of both chatbot and AI assistant for us. They brought to me and Jay a bigger challenge they had around top of funnel lead distro. And the way that works in healthcare staffing, for folks who aren't aware, is many times these agencies are getting leads from a variety of different sources. So their website, their niche job boards, their marketplaces, their mobile apps, and in healthcare, at least, they oftentimes come into a shared inbox that human or humans have to comb through, assign out to recruiters. And that process of going through an inbox, finding leads, assigning them out, all takes time. And in this market, especially in healthcare, from what you've seen over the last 12 months, they don't have time. It's got to be speed. It's got to be fast. And we automated that experience with the help of AI, basically using AI in those inboxes to strip out information around their name, location, skills, specialties, do a lookup in the ATS, and then pass through that data to the appropriate channels of recruiters and Microsoft Teams. You'd asked about the distro logic earlier. The outcome of that has been huge increases in time to respond and speed to contact. With some of our customers, their average response time was hours, sometimes over 24 hours. And we've cut that down to minutes and sometimes seconds during business hours. And
Wow.
so that translates to serious ROI as far as increase in placements. I think with some of our customers, we've 4x their placement revenue in certain key lead sources. So that's just been huge. And if you're in healthcare staffing and you're on Bullhorn or Bullhorn for Salesforce, you should definitely talk with us, because that's been just a really easy solution for us to show value on very quickly.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, you can also kind of customize and target it as well, right? So you can ensure it's kind of the right type of leads or focus on a certain area, specialty, in need
Yeah.
area, so that you can really route things
Yeah,
appropriately.
and we just did a case study with Bridget Weber and our friends at Crossman on this solution as well. And they were also spending a lot of time uploading those leads into Bullhorn. Some of them have direct connections into Bullhorn, others don't. And so we can also automate that process of, if they are a qualified lead, making sure that they get into your database. and then routing it to the right channel and teams once they're there. So that ATS lookup's really big because we're looking up candidate ownership and passing that on so that you don't get three recruiters reaching out to the same candidate at once.
Yeah. And from a candidate experience perspective, I imagine that's a night and day difference. You know, you said mentioning you might be waiting a day, hours, whereas, getting in contact with the right person 10, 20 times quicker, right,
It's
is a beautiful thing.
It's crazy how much the speed to contact, how critical it is. We saw it in testing where even if someone applied directly to an agency, 10 minutes later, that's opening up to a whole bunch more. And it follows that whatever agencies, recruiters get to that lead the first, the better chance they have of placing them. There's been a lot of data that shows that if you can respond to a lead, whether it's a sales lead or a candidate lead in under 5 minutes, you have a far more likely chance of placing them on assignment or closing them in a sales process. So
Yeah, and what I love about not only that use case, but a lot of the stuff that we mentioned earlier is that you all are always thinking about what are kind of the ways it can be measured, or what are the metrics or the things that get impacted by those things. So is that kind of intentional? And this is probably coming from your previous experience in staffing, where kind of the technology is great, but then being able to show kind of the analytics, the ROI, the impact is
yeah,
a really key feature.
yeah, you've got to be able to measure it. Luckily for us, everything that we're doing, we're also adding notes in Bullhorn. So lead distro is a great example. When someone comes in, we add a note that the lead got distributed. When someone claims them in Microsoft Teams, we add a note that someone's been claimed. And we can actually show exactly how long it takes them to follow up on leads, what their lead response time is. You'd be shocked how many agencies we ask what their average lead response time is, and they have no idea. It's a really hard thing to measure. And so, because we're able to add those notes and then track them through how far they make it to submittal, to interview, to placement, we can show how much we influence that placement. We don't like to take credit for making placements. That's ultimately on the agency, but we say that we had an influence on that amount of revenue or gross profit. Um, we also are doing a lot with the Bullhorn team as part of being in the marketplace around the data hub and having our information get sent back to Bullhorn so that agencies will be able to report on us there. We of course have our own reporting suite that we supplement that with, but we love the idea of Bullhorn supplying a place where agencies can report on their Bullhorn data, but also their various marketplace partners.
Yeah, and if anyone in the audience isn't kind of fully caught up to speed on what Data Hub is, I'll give a quick little overview of what it is. It's essentially a repository inside of your Bullhorn ecosystem for data, pulling it not only from your ATS, but all your other kind of Bullhorn products. But then the vision of it as well is also getting access to marketplace partners and data, being able to put into that same spot. So getting to that kind of single source of truth, and then either being able to utilize that from an analytics perspective, a business intelligence perspective. If you have your own third parties, be able to have the third parties right into it, but then also extract. Then if you need to do your own data manipulations and things. But yeah, really excited about the vision and what that's going to unlock, because now all of a sudden you will be able to put all of those pieces together, but then show kind of the end-to-end impact of what some of these things combined together are.
Yeah, it's going to be powerful.
For sure. So, I mean, lots of really cool kind of stuff that we've talked about kind of in the now. Where do you see kind of the market going? Where do you see kind of AI kind of happening? Obviously it's a very
Yeah.
rapidly evolving space, but curious to, hear
I
your
mean,
perspective on the future.
yeah. I mean, someone asked me, I was on a podcast with Dave Falwell for Staffing Hub, and he asked where I see it in 5 years. I'm like, man, it's like changing so rapidly. It's hard to know where it's going to be 5 months from now. We think that, generative AI and directive AI are going to continue converging together. And when you think about like our AI assistant tool, right now it's really good on alerting end users of what's happened historically in the past. Where we're going with that in the near term is also serving up like things that they need to take action on in the future. So this person hasn't been followed up with in X number of days, make sure that you reach out to them tomorrow and that sort of thing. So if we can pair together that directive, what to do next with, powerful generative AI that does it for them, then I think that's going to almost become a virtual recruiting assistant or sales assistant for every end user. And I say sales assistant with emphasis because we are really determined to build out some awesome sales use cases too. I've seen it over the last 10 years, and sales teams I think have been a little bit neglected by recruiting technology partners and staffing technology partners. And right now, in the foreseeable future, agencies really need a lot of help getting jobs from a business development standpoint, and we think we can help there.
Well, I know sales is your passion and probably your biggest area of expertise, so I'm sure you're going to be integral in kind of making that happen.
Yeah, and there's so many awesome sales tools out there that I think us in SaaS sales know about, but staffing sales might not know about. So if anyone in staffing sales is tuning in and wants help, or has questions around what tools they might want to be looking at, I'm happy to connect with me, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue too, because I know another kind of really impactful value prop that you all do is you make some really great assets and kind of artifacts. I know kind of your Gen AI cheat code and kind of some of those prompts and things was really popular. I've seen people utilize that in a bunch of different ways. So love to let the people know where they can find you, where they can find
Yeah.
more of those things.
Yeah, I mean, follow me, follow Staffing Engine on LinkedIn. I'm sure Andrew or Jay will drop some resources in the chat here. But yeah, we get hundreds of downloads, daily on the GPT cheat sheet and prompt library. They're great resources for folks who are just getting started and want to learn how to prompt. What I've seen firsthand, if you ask GPT to write you a sales email, it's going to put out a pretty crappy output. But if you really prompt it and say, I'm an entry level account executive reaching out to an SVP of marketing at a staffing agency, write me an email that hits on their two biggest challenge areas, and has a short call to action at the end of it. It starts getting better. You just have to
Yeah.
know how to prompt it. And so one of the things that we want to do is really help agencies understand how to leverage the power of GPT so that it produces valuable outputs to their team.
Love that. I know that on the generative AI front, especially kind of the data quality plus the prompt quality oftentimes equals a lot of the value and kind of the customization that you want to achieve.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, Matt, thanks so much for joining here. Obviously, some really great information. Said if anyone is interested in finding out more, follow Staffing Engine and get in contact with Matt. But really appreciate your time. And obviously, we chat quite a bit. So it's exciting
Yeah.
to see how you all will continue to evolve and kind of the AI story.
Thanks for having us on.
All right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.